who aren't here. And in unity, one of the things that we strongly believe in is the power of prayer. And there's a lot of people that aren't here that need those prayers. And might not even be people we know. There are people out there that are struggling, that are searching, that feel lost and alone. And we want to send all of those people our prayers. And so let's go into a few moments of silent prayer for those you know and maybe don't even know that are in need of these prayers. Oh man. I don't know about you, but I could just feel that power and presence grow in strength. Because where two or more are gathered, there am I also. And that power and presence is always with us. But when we gather together like this, it's even stronger.
Sunday, October 8th, and the word is together. The presence of God unites us as we work, play, and pray together. Joining with others to work makes the job easier. Joining together for fun multiplies the enjoyment. The camaraderie, cooperation, and support of togetherness give me a boost and brighten my mood. The indwelling Christ's presence is alive in all people everywhere. When I work, play, or pray with others, something greater than the sum of our individual efforts and insights result. The divine love that binds us multiplies as we recognize it in one another and give it fuller expression in ourselves. Work becomes more productive, play more enjoyable, and prayer more fulfilling. Together we produce more good work, feel more joy and happiness than any of us could accomplish on our own. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them. Matthew 18:20.
wonderfully. And thank you, choir, for helping us out with that. And our gardens are special places, aren't they? And I do believe that a garden is someplace we can go and we can pray at. We have and I'm just rambling a little bit here because I know the choir's going to sing us another tune here real quick. But we have a nature center right next to us. And I must say, it's one of my favorite places, especially, I had kind of a rough week this week. Anybody ever have a rough week? So the nature center is a place where I can go. There has to be a little stream that runs through there, and there's a little bench that's next to the stream. And somehow, just being in nature helps me feel that my prayers, I know they're always easily heard, but sometimes you're in a certain spot and it just feels, you can feel that presence and power even better, right?
Listen to what you're saying.
seek a higher consciousness. Be aware of what you're saying. Because it's so important. When our thoughts, as I said, I've been struggling with some health issues this week, and it's just, this is really silly, but my adult son, who's in his 40s, who's lived with us on and off, well, a lot. He finally bought his own house, and he moved out. Now, you would think, at this point in time, I would be thrilled, right? I am struggling with my boy not being there. And it's just really, I'm sorry, but I guess I just needed to share that. He's my baby. even in his 40s. Sorry. So it's been kind of a tough week, and talk about enthusiasm. And that's like the last thing on my mind. So I don't know how much of my talk you're going to get this week. It may be something entirely different. So before we get started, one of the things I like to do, and I remember this from my early days in Unity, when I went to the Church of Today, and a gentleman by the name of Jack Bowen, who I still think of Jack as my mentor, because he started me on this path. He started me on this road to seeking a higher consciousness. And he always shared the statement of being. I don't know if we have it printed somewhere. No. Well, perhaps we need to do that. Some of us know this. If you do, great. If you don't, please just listen. Listen to the words. So let's say together, God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one body, one mind is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. Wow. The first time I heard that, I think I probably said, yeah, right. I'm sorry. But I didn't feel like I was anywhere close to perfect. And the only God that I had been exposed to for most of my life was sitting up on a chair, big old throne somewhere in the sky, looking down at me and telling me I was unworthy for many, many reasons. And when I heard the words that I am an individualized expression of God, how would that be? And then I started hearing that God is not apart from me. God is not judging me. God is love. And God lives in me, as me, and through me. And I started reading and listening and praying, not to a God, but from a place of divinity within myself. And I started connecting with that spirit, with that presence, with that power. And you know, I still struggle with my own human sense of unworthiness. I mean, just because I went through ministerial school didn't make it all go away. It doesn't make all things better. It just makes it easier. Because we all struggle. And it's so much easier when you're going through the struggles, when you have people to share it with, when you have people that understand, and people that are going through the same thing. Because we all have our struggles. And so, what we're trying to do together is to help each other to raise our consciousness, to remember that our thoughts are prayers. When we are down on ourselves, we're hurting ourselves. I mean, it took me a while to even notice how ugly the things that I was saying to myself, about myself, were. And then once you notice them, you can start, just start to make some changes. But it's a process. The path of greater, higher consciousness isn't straight. It's crooked as heck. I mean, we go through times when, if you would have heard me speak a week or two ago, I'd have probably been up here giggling and smiling and laughing and telling you all kinds of jokes because I was closer to that consciousness at that time. And now I feel like I've drifted a little bit and I'm working to get back there. And sometimes we all need each other. So, in your prayers this week, I hope you'll include me. Because I need a few prayers this week. I've got some stuff going on and I'm struggling a little bit. And I pray for you all the time. I pray for this church all the time. Because, I've been given the opportunity and the responsibility to try to grow this church. Because I know that even though I'm struggling right now, I'm so much better than I was 20 years ago. I'm so much better off than I was before I discovered these practices and principles. And just because I'm having a rough time now, I know it's not going to last. And the next time you come here and you hear me speak, I'll probably be laughing and giggling and telling you jokes. It just ain't happening today, sorry. I mean, I do a lot of reading. I'll be honest with you. I have a ton of books. I don't finish a lot of them. I read bits and pieces. And I was reading a book this week, and it talked about surrender, and it talked about the paradox of letting go and also knowing that God is our source. And I'm one of these people, I always want to be in charge. I want to make things happen. And doggone it, when they don't happen, I get pretty down on myself. And I'm struggling a little bit with saying, okay, God, you gave me this church. We're supposed to be growing. Where are all the people? We got some new faces here though today. And because it just makes such a difference when we are together. Whether it's the struggle or the joy or the enthusiasm or the crud. It just is so much better together. I wrote all this stuff and I don't know what to do with it because it's just not fitting. But anyway, I will, you know what I'm going to talk to you about? I'm going to talk to you about a class that I'm going to be doing next week. And it's going to be really, today we're having a Unity 101 class, which our licensed Unity teacher, Linda Ridley, is doing. And Linda does a great job reminding us of what our basic principles are in Unity. We have 5 basic principles. Does anybody know what they are?
There is one power, one presence in the universe, God the good and infinite.
There we go. God is, I am, I think, I pray, and I act. I act. And that 5th principle, putting our thoughts, our words, our unity principles into action is really what makes the difference. Because we're all going to go through rough times. we're all going to have times when life is good. And we're going to have times when somebody cuts us off in traffic. And we're going to have times when we work real hard for something and it doesn't work out. And we're going to have times when our 40-year-old kid moves out and we think we should be happy and we're not. We all want to be, I think, the class I'm going to be doing is based on a book called The Person You Mean to Be, How Good People Fight Bias. And when I was in ministerial school, I just finished ministerial school earlier this year. I just became a licensed Unity minister in June, although I've been a student of Unity since I was in my 20s, and that was a little while ago. But it's made such a difference in my life that I finally, they say it's a calling, and I had to write a little article, I guess, a little paper on what was my calling. And my calling was more of a nudge here and a nudge there, because there was a time when I didn't like to get up and talk in front of people. Anybody been scared of, the first time I stood in front of a group of people, I had a piece of paper in my hands. That's what was happening. But what happened is I felt an urge to get better at that. So I joined Toastmasters. And with Toastmasters, I got better and a little better and a little better and a little better. And then the more, and that was at the same time that I was attending a Unity church. In fact, I attended Toastmasters at Church of Today. And so, as I got better and better in Toastmasters, and I started really practicing these principles, I started seeing these changes in my life. So my talks at Toastmasters wrapped around Unity principles. And in addition to that, I changed what I read. Instead of my racy romance novels. Come on, I'm not the only one. Instead of my romance novels, racy or not, I started reading books to help me be more confident. I didn't grow up, I was a smart kid, but I was the kid that grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. In fact, I think probably one of the reasons why I came in here being so goofy this morning is I had this terrible dream last night about the way I used to feel as a kid. So left out, so unworthy, so not accepted. And so I think the stuff that we deal with in our childhood I don't know, maybe it doesn't quite always go completely away, does it? It just seems like it sneaks up on you when you least expect it. So I woke up this morning, I've been praying and meditating and doing all these things and working to create that enthusiasm that I really wanted to bring to you this morning so that I could give this talk that I've written that you're not hearing at all. But sometimes Spirit does what Spirit does because that's the way it's supposed to be. And because we have this vision of who we are, and then we don't live up to it. And then we get down on ourselves. And when we start realizing that there's more to us, and we start working on raising our consciousness to be the person we want to be, that's when life starts to get better. When we start realizing that our thoughts are prayers, and we start paying attention to our thoughts, and when we hear ourselves telling ourselves, when I hear myself telling myself, I'm not worthy, I say no. No, Anita. You used to think that way, but you know that's not true. You know that you are an individualized expression of that one presence and power. And when we know that about ourselves, we can push away those dark shadows. We don't pretend they're not there. We just walk through them. So, you know, I'm going to have to do some of this talk because a few years ago, a few years ago, Mike and I went on an extended vacation. A whole month. We traveled out west because he has family and friends that live out west. And we had planned this, we had been talking about doing it for years and years before we went. And when we finally set a date, I got so excited about it. I went out and bought a United States map, put it up on the wall, put pins in it, in a yarn, and routed out the whole thing. Dreamed about it for months and months and months. And it was really, really great. And that journey is a memory that I will always remember. And then earlier this year, we had the opportunity. I had never been outside, well, I've been outside the United States. I've been to Canada. But I had never been to Europe. And we get these, anybody get the little magazines from Viking? And they send a ton of them. So I get these little Viking magazines, and I flip through them, and oh, that would be nice, and oh, and I see the ads on TV and such. And one day last year, toward the end of the year, I was looking through the Viking magazine, and I saw a river cruise on the Rhine River for $2,000, including airfare, for a whole week. And I looked at Mike and I said, well, if we're ever going to go, we can afford this. So we went, and I was so excited about being able to afford going on this cruise that I told my best friend about it, and she and her husband said, well, we'll go with you. And then Mark started talking to us. He comes from a family of 6 sisters and 2 brothers. He started talking to his family, and some of his sisters said, oh, we'll go with you. So we ended up with 8 people on this cruise. And that comes back to the word for today, together. Because as much as I know Mike and I would have had an absolutely marvelous time on that cruise with just the 2 of us, with 8 people, friends and family, it was fabulous. It was fabulous. In fact, if anybody's interested, my girlfriend that went with me made this for us and gave it to us. Gave it to me for my birthday. So it was just the most exciting thing. So when we do things together, they're even better. And so enthusiasm for a vacation, for all those other things is great. But when we can take that same enthusiasm and really get enthusiastic about our own spiritual growth, that's what's really going to make a difference in our lives. And that's really the point of today's message, is that we need to get excited about where we're going in our hearts and minds and our connection with Spirit. Because there is a presence and power that lives in, through, and as us. We can do all things, not as us, but that presence and power, when we allow it to do its thing. Because alone, we're just these little human people that fall back to their childhood unworthiness and have their bad days and have their rough spots and fall backwards from time to time. But together with each other and united with Spirit, where two or more are gathered, that's when the presence and power is the greatest. Namaste. So, now it is time for our meditation. And what I like to remind you during meditation is this is time for you to connect with your own Christ self. That presence and power that lives in, through, and as each one of you. We are imperfect as humans and perfect in that inner self. So let's take a few minutes, relax, release that tension in your shoulders, release that tension in your arms and neck and body. Allow your feet to just rest lightly on the floor and feel that presence and power that enlivens every cell of your body. And as you breathe in the white, pure, crystalline white light of love, of peace, of joy. And as you breathe out, any of those old thoughts or concerns of unworthiness or less than or cannot, let those go. Breathe those out and watch the particles of dust float away. Feel that presence and power fill you from head to toe with light and love. And in the silence, connect with that one Divine Spirit, we know our prayers are heard even before we express them. And even more than that, we know they are answered. And even if the answer is not the one we hope for, we know that all things are working together for our highest good. And we are so grateful for that knowing. And together we sing and we pray the Lord's Prayer. Now it's time for our tithes and offerings. And unity, the unity movement, this church has given so much to me, and I hope that it has given a lot to you as well. I know that there are people in here whose lives have changed and are in the process of changing for the better. And together we will continue to help others to realize that they are individualized expressions of that one presence and power as well, and see the best in themselves. So let's take our gifts in our hands and say together, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give joyfully and easily, for the universe is my source, and abundance is my nature.
Be accepted.
class on hidden biases based on the book, The Person You Mean to Be. When I read this book, I was really shocked at a few things I discovered about myself. So I think it's very beneficial for us to, we're going to be doing diversity, equity, and inclusion classes at least once a quarter so that we can become more aware of our hidden bias. We collect plastic bags and we give them to an organization that makes them into beds for homeless people. We collect toilet paper and paper towel rolls that are shredded to make beds for puppies and kitties. We collect all kinds of boots and shoes and clothing for homeless people. She's not here today, but Reverend Kelly, another Unity minister who has a homeless mission, does tremendous work. And of course, last night it was in the 30s. Oh my goodness. And there's people that have no shelter. So we try to help them as well. So we have a lot of things that we do so that we reach out to the community and give as much as we receive.
The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are,